Good morning, everyone. Topic of today's talk is six senses. I finished my series of talk dedicated to difficult times, and today I would like to start something new. When someone's saying the world, the whole world, the one that's sometimes bothering you, challenges you, that sometimes seems so unfair, aggressive, the world that makes you act a certain way, expect you to be a certain type, the world around you, how do you picture it? Usually it is something outside. But every time when we meet this world in sutras, Master Jiro would always emphasize that the world is six senses, or five like in this picture. It is a very interesting shift that we can make. When we think about the world outside, we don't have much control over it because nothing can really be done outside without other, sometimes bad consequences to come. Yes, we as a human beings can turn the rivers around, but where the drought comes from, why the climate change comes. But how do we experience the existence of the world? How do we know that the world exists? Through six senses. If there are no senses, there is no outer world. There is no way to know about it. Again, if we don't have sense organs, we have no chance to perceive the world and to know about it. But since we have them, our mind is always full of the information that we receive, and the mind can't concentrate on one thing. It just keeps jumping from one perception to another. In a meditation, we have to overcome our senses. But how? There are certain practices like sensual deprivation practice. I guess first time we heard about it from many centuries ago from prison and torture. People can go insane if they are put in a small, restricted cameras without light, without sounds, without anyone to talk to, with little food, with uncomfortable position to sleep. So all the senses are either fully deprived or the information is so dull, just the bare minimum comes. And because our mind is used to be so active all the time, then it starts to create an inner activity. And right now, sensual deprivation cameras tend to get popular. I don't know if you try one or not. They put in a tank a salted water that holds your body so you feel no gravity. They turn out the light, they make it soundproof, and it's said to be very good relaxation technique. You feel no gravity, no sound, no light. So usually with actively working sense organs, our mind is also very active, eating the food of contact information. Like after eating regular food, it takes us a few hours to digest it. And we even have similar cells in our brain and in our guts. Scientists call this little brain, the enteric nervous system, or ENS. And it's actually not so little. It consists out of 100 million nerve cells lining our gastrointestinal tract from esophagus to rectum. And after we receive the contact food, like for example, you watched a movie that impressed you, or you drove a car and you saw a car crash, or you had an argument with someone, you may notice that when you go back to rest, to sleep, your brain is digesting everything. What you receive is being digested by your mind. Sense information is the food, the nutrient for the mind. And sometimes when we come home from work very tired, what do? or especially young generation. You watch TV, Netflix, or YouTube, the mind is already tired, but we give it more sensory information, the food, to excite it. No wonder we feel as if there is no energy in us to do something, to change for the better. We waste all the energy in the sense organs. The information is not only received, but processed, and there is also a result that is spitted out in case of untrained mind, or kindly radiated outside in case of trained mind. When that type of mind that is used to always eat a lot of sensory information suddenly is deprived of it, then it starts to create its own information from the different directions. That is why intensive meditation can sometimes be dangerous. This world of solid forms, solid bodies, and six senses are not the only one that exists. And to go to a deep state of meditation means to overcome your sense organs. You may lose the sensation of the body. And after losing the sensation of the body, the mind has no borders. Nothing to prevent it to go outside. Nothing protects it from outside things to come in. So you may notice when you go to a retreat in Maba for meditation, Master rarely suggests people to sit more than 30 minutes. But there are other retreats where people intensively go sit half an hour, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, 2 hours without movement. And while many of them survived, of course, but unfortunately, there are cases of disturbed mental activity. Or the same thing may happen in the case of drug-induced psychosis. A lot of youngsters right now think that some of the drugs are harmless, that they even can provide some spiritual experience. Not only drugs, but things like ayahuasca and other things. People feel that if they try it, they of course can feel the non-self, that we are all united and we are one. But because it is done without the base of good, pure conduct, it becomes a support for personality disintegration and problems. So I wouldn't recommend it. But how can we train our mind then? If sixth sense space is the restriction that we have to overcome to get concentrated, but it is also a protection for us, for our sanity. Even though meditation is to overcome the sixth sense space, but it is not for receiving all kind of mystical information. That is where we have to be clear. I remember even when I arrived at Maba and was so elevated and inspired because I really wanted to create talks in Russian language and post them on YouTube to share with my Russian friends, Russian students. And I was very inspired. Every time when I would go to a meditation, an absolutely great ideas of talks would come to me. Every time when I stopped meditation, I would forget. I kind of had the rough idea what I was thinking, but I couldn't remember it. So I started to bring a notebook to a meditation. And if I have a good thought, good idea, I would write it down. And one day I shared this with Master, and he advised me not to do it. There are different things out there, but it is not the point of our practice. It is the distraction that may catch us up very tightly. We think we can use it as our advantage, but instead we are being used. So meditation is to be practiced for deliverance, for letting go, not for gaining, not for acquiring things. But if the world is totally controlling the content of our mind, how do we take back the control, if not through sensual deprivation? There is a phrase that Ajahn Sumedho would always use in his lectures that I like a lot. Sometimes he would ask a question. Are we helpless victims of our sensitivity? How can we overcome the senses? If we pay enough attention, whatever there is in the basin of our mind, I like the Chinese name Now Hai. Now means brain, Hai means ocean, or this picture maybe there are Harry Potter fans, they know that it is pensieve, that a main sorcerer used this to get the thoughts from his mind, and he would put it in this basin so other people who can read his mind would not be able to read this exact thought. So this basin is not outside, it's in our mind. And whatever there is in your mind is everything that's been put from outside. Someone told you you're smart, and he put a seed in you. Someone told you you're stupid, and there is a different seed. Again, you saw a car crash, I saw a car crash. A corpse, a young child holding a toy. That thought will stay there, will float in the mind. Can you stop it? You go to a meditation retreat and you think, okay, now it is the time. I'm going to be so serious about my practice, so diligent. I will meditate, I will empty my mind and pay all of my attention to the breathing. It doesn't work. I don't know if you think you're unique on that or not. 100% of everyone, unless they already reach the higher states, instead of having an empty mind, their mind is occupied. Occupied with what? Occupied with thoughts that I like it, I want it, I like it, I want it more. Thinking about something good, I want to have it more. Of course, the simple examples of food, of possessions, of money, of relationship, love, and so on. And even some spiritual thoughts. I remember first time when I went to a meditation in Thailand, I enjoyed it so much. And we meditated there a lot. And I would sit there and all my thoughts were about, okay, this time I came for 10 days. But next year, I need to talk to that person. I need to work less. I need to do this and that so I can come for a month. And if it works well, then in 2 years, I will come for 2 months. Someone may say, well, this is a spiritual thought, something good. But the mind is that in that moment is not concentrated. It is thinking about something. Whatever the mind that is grasping for more, 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 it doesn't matter what kind of more. Money, food, vacations for meditations. Another thing that can be in our mind, I don't like it. I sit in the meditation and I think of how I can get rid of that. Maybe I should divorce. Maybe I should move out from my parents' house. Maybe I should get rid of laziness. Maybe I should get rid of intrusive thoughts. Maybe I should quit that job. And I don't like. Maybe the neighbor that's meditating near me is irritating me. I should move to other seat. Cushion is so uncomfortable. So all kinds of I don't like. The next type is when you don't have much of greed or hate, but your mind does not know where to apply itself. I have an itchy leg. Okay, let me scratch it. It's so nice outside. Why do we meditate inside? It is better to go out and walk in the woods. Today, during the lunch, we ate such a good thing. Maybe I should learn how to cook it and so on. Like a monkey, jumps from one thing to another thing. Okay, next. When you don't move for a long time and you don't do any hard work, the mind doesn't know where to put itself again. So it just kind of shuts down. Or you try to calm down, just observe your breathing in, breathing out, and you fall asleep. Sometimes it's not necessarily the sleeping, but just being dull, not sharp. The right concentration is when we are clear about our breathing. If there's just some kind of liquidy, cloudy thing that you're floating in, even if you're relaxed, it is not a concentration. It's still sleepiness, dullness. And the last part that can occupy our mind are questions. Do I breathe long or short right now? Should I breathe longer? Should I force my breathing? Is this practice have any benefit for me? What am I doing here? What and why am I practicing? Maybe this teacher is saying something incorrect. I read in a book, it's supposed to be different. But I then heard another teacher, it says to be supposed to be the other way. Doubts about your own ability, the teacher, and the teachings are one of the obstacles for meditation. So those 5 things, of course, we know them as 5 hindrances: greed, hatred, restlessness, laziness, and doubt. So all the information that we receive as a food through our sense organs keep replaying in our mind and manifests as 5 hindrances. We have to come back to train our mind, our sense organs first. The world is not the world outside, is your sense organs. Not much control for the world outside, but we can have some kind of control of our sense organs. Any visual information, we did it right now in a meditation before, any visual information that we have is the reflection of the color or light in the back side here, inside of the eye. That information received through receptors, different kind of receptors, some of them more sensitive for daylight, some of them more sensitive for night light. And the information that is received goes through optic nerve and then is transmitted to the part of the brain that is responsible to turn it into the vision. Oh, I see this picture. Do not go out to look at the picture. Learn to let the picture come to stay here, and your attention stays here. Sounds. Oh, this pleasant music. I like this type of music, but I hate this type of music. But if you let the sounds again come to your, as a waves, to your eardrums, then the eardrums will vibrate and vibrate 3 types of bones that we have here. Then through some liquid, it goes, the vibration of the liquid goes to this area where they have like a little hair, and the liquid vibrating, the hair vibrating, and it then transmits to the part of the brain that say, oh, this is a sound for you. And whatever is said to you, you are beautiful, it's just a wave. You're ugly, the same thing, just a wave. Same goes to the smell, to the taste, to the touch, and to the mind with its thoughts as the object. Thoughts are just the vibration of the mind. Then, if we are able to do so, the world stops being something that just grabs us and shakes us, totally shakes us to the moment of death, when we are without energy, just dying without realizing anything, without understanding anything. No, we can take back the control when we come back to our senses. Now, I see the picture outside is just the reflection. The sounds outside is just the vibration. All the sensations come to the organs. And I don't have to be involved in it too much. That is the good, very good practice. You're freeing some space in your attention that can be directed in the concentration and developing wisdom later on as the result of the practice. There is a very good practice that you can do. Anytime you walk, you can place your gaze into the horizon and allow yourself to see the sky, the ground, everything that's on the right, on the left, and you let all the pictures again come to you. Don't get too much involved, and that will calm your mind. Try it a few times, check if it works for you or not. There are 2 extremes. As you can see in this picture, we can go outside. This person over here is looking at something. He's listening to something. Pretty sure he smells the coffee and tastes the coffee, right? There's a lot of sensations always outside. Or when we walk, we usually, how do we walk? Oh, this building, oh, this shop. And that music, this sound, this feeling. Or the other extreme, we just tend to completely shut up, totally lost in our mind activities, thinking again, a lot of views, a lot of perceptions, that's how I feel, that what he did, that what he said, inside the mind. We don't want to Stay in those two things. Just like a scientist who stays not involved, not distracted, who stay in the middle, just to be in the door of sense organs. It's a very narrow line. Turn yourself into a receiver, observer, not a thinker, not a doer, not a maker, not a someone who wants something. Just be like a radio receiver. And then when you play with it enough, to the point when you teach your mind not to run away too far, where you can't bring it back anymore, you will notice a big improvement in your meditation practice. This is a daily life practice. And I remember one time, Master told me an example. He said, have you seen this type of people, maybe in an older age, they're so used to let their mind run away loose that they just can't bring it back again. And I actually remembered, I know one person pretty close that sometimes asks me questions about meditation, and whatever I say, it's impossible to understand for that person because the mind is so outside, there's no chance to bring it back. So learn to see your mind and attention as if it is untrained dog. If you walk with a dog not on a leash, it will charge after squirrels, rabbit, cats, and other dogs. Same for our mind. It will charge outside to forms, to colors, to sounds, to smells, to taste, or it will get lost inside in the thinking and perception, in views, in ideas, in ideals, in concepts. That's all our mind is doing, running back and forth with incredible speed. That's why we have no power of concentration. We're either outside or inside, and mind is loose and crazy. Tie a leash on it. The leash is mindfulness. When you're still, be mindful of your breathing. When you move your steps, be mindful of your steps. When you work and touch something with your hands, be mindful of hands contact. That's how you will bring your attention back to the middle line, and you will gather your attention that you can use for later practice. When we think about learning Dharma, there is so much to learn. People study at university, writing long scientific papers about it. But for the practice, you don't need much. Buddha said that practice of 4 foundation of mindfulness would lead to final goal. And in number 4, the 4th foundation, he described what we have to know in order to have sufficient baggage to practice. 5 hindrances, 5 aggregates, 6 sense organs, 7 factors of enlightenment, and 4 noble truths. That's it. It's not that much. We learn about 5 hindrances already today. And when we are able to bring our mind and stay in the middle, not getting lost in outside or inside, and we gain enough concentration that is based on cleaning our behavior in the direction of wholesome actions, then and only then would be able to notice that, for example, sensual desire, sometimes present in our mind, sometimes absent. We don't have to, again, get lost in it and see it as my problem, I have a sensual desire. No, we see it as a condition that is sometimes present, sometimes absent. Sometimes some of the condition make the defilement arise. And sometimes we'll learn by practicing, by being mindful, how we can abandon, let go of that defilement. And then with a practice, maybe it will take many years, we can learn the conditions that will support no future arising of hindrances. 5 aggregates. We all have 5 aggregates, arahants, enlightened ones, Buddha, all had of them. But the difference is in the clinging. Our aggregates are to be perceived as such, Usually we think, oh, today I'm looking good. I like my body. Or I hate my body. Or this feeling, when I feel like this, I'm so happy. But this feeling, I hate it. Our 5 aggregates are to be perceived as such. It is like that. Instead of attitude of liking and disliking, just to be able to see it as such. And they're not always present in our mind. Even today, we learned that the body sensation can be lost, right? So we are able to notice sometimes how they come into place in the mind and how they disappear. 6 sense organs today, we'll learn a lot about them. We'll learn to be able to stay in the middle, not to go outside, not to get lost inside, just stay in the body when you're mindful of your breathing or just your body. It will help you to overcome the obstacles. Your mind is still and calm in that moment. Here, we need to be able to learn how to differentiate. Usually we just feel, okay, the world outside. But when we practice more, we're able to see that we have different sense organs and we differentiate the eyes and the central organ, the object. And then we will see how sometimes it creates the condition for obstacles or fetters to arise on depending on both of them. Then with mindfulness and practice, we can see how it comes to be and how we can learn to abandon it. The same thing, we'll learn the conditions that supports no future arising. 7 factors of enlightenment. We need to learn sometimes they are present in the mind. Again, not something as I possess it, but as the condition that sometimes is there, sometimes it's not there. So we learn to differentiate when mindfulness is present, when it is not. And if it's not, we discern that it's not there, that what are the conditions to support it to arise. And when we're able to support the arising of mindfulness, we'll learn how to keep it there all the time, the culmination. Then if we are able to do it in regards to all 7 factors, that is how the enlightenment becomes a possibility. And the last part, the 4 noble truths, we need to understand the suffering, that it is there despite do we want it or not want it, it will still be there. And the longer we live, the more suffering our body will experience, the more loss we will experience. This is just the reality of the world. We need to understand the cause of that suffering, the desire to hold on to things. I want to have healthy body. I want to have young body. I want to keep the relationship. I want to keep to possess all kind of things. And this want goes across the reality, because whatever is concocted will fall apart. If we're able to abandon that desire, then we will have the ability to realize the cessation of suffering. Cessation of suffering is not done, it's realized, means you observe it naturally happens. Your unpleasant sensations, you're not letting them go, pushing them away. You realize without grabbing on them, without trying to do something with them, you realize how they just fall naturally, because this is the nature of the things. They come into place, they last, and then they cease. And the more desire to let go we have, the harder for them to go away, because you keep in mind the idea of having them. And if we just let it be, we will notice how it go away. And the path, noble eightfold path, has to be developed with the practice. That will conclude my talk today. Thank you very much.